On April 1st, 2026, at exactly 6:35 in the evening, the ground at Kennedy Space Center in Florida shook violently. 4 brave people sat on top of the Space Launch System rocket, the most powerful rocket ever built. They knew this critical test flight would either make new history or end in an unimaginable tragedy. This was not just another launch. It was a return to a part of space humanity had not seen in a very long time. This launch marked something truly special. For 54 years, no human had traveled far into deep space, beyond Earth's close orbit. The last time was in December 1972, when the crew of Apollo 17 splashed down in the Pacific Ocean. They quietly closed a big chapter of human exploration. For more than half a century, no person had ventured beyond low Earth orbit. On this day, 4 astronauts changed that. Why did it take humanity over half a century to go back? What new secrets does this new era of exploration hold for us all, far beyond our home planet? This book will take you on a thrilling journey, starting with a close look at the Artemis II mission launch in April 2026. We will explore the historical context since the Apollo 17 mission in 1972, understanding why such a long time passed before humanity decided to return. This chapter will outline the massive symbolic and scientific weight of the Artemis II mission. It is more than just a trip around the moon. It is a clear statement of humanity's will to reach further into the cosmos. The Artemis II mission is a very important test flight. It will not land on the moon, but it is a carefully planned dress rehearsal. This mission prepares us for ambitious lunar landings that NASA plans for the future. The data and experiences from Artemis II are critical. They will help us learn how to live and work safely far from Earth. This journey shows that humans still want to explore and discover new things. It reminds us of our shared dream to understand our place in the universe. The mission carries the hopes of many people, looking up at the sky with excitement for what comes next in human space travel. It is a moment that unites us, aiming for new heights in space. 2. Meet the crew. This chapter introduces the 4 brave people chosen for the Artemis II mission. Their names are Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen. They are carrying a big responsibility as they prepare to fly farther than any human has gone in over 50 years. These astronauts are special because they are breaking new ground in space travel, showing that humanity's reach is growing. Victor Glover is the first person of color, Christina Koch is the first woman, and Jeremy Hansen is the first person from a country other than the U.S. to travel near the moon. These are important milestones. They show a new way of thinking, many years after the Apollo missions, about who can explore space and who it is for. It highlights that space exploration belongs to everyone. Reed Wiseman is the mission commander. He is a U.S. Navy test pilot with much experience. He has flown in space before, living on the International Space Station for many months. His time there makes him deeply experienced in long space flights. He is known for being very calm under pressure and acts as the crew's anchor, keeping the team steady during their challenging journey.
Victor Glover is the mission pilot. Like Wiseman, he is a Navy pilot and has served as a crew member on the International Space Station. He helped design the mission patch. This patch shows A2, but is styled to look like the word all. He explained, "We want everybody to be a part of this mission." His journey as the first black astronaut to fly near the moon is very important. It arrives at a time when talks about having different kinds of people in science and technology are still happening. Christina Koch is a NASA research engineer and astronaut. During an earlier trip to the International Space Station, she set a record for the longest single space flight by a woman. Her trip beyond Earth orbit on Artemis 2 is a huge step. For many young women watching from home, this moment will stay with them for their whole lives, inspiring them to reach for the stars. She serves as a mission specialist. Jeremy Hansen is a fighter pilot and astronaut from the Canadian Space Agency. He is a husband and father who grew up on a farm in London, Ontario. His presence on the crew is a result of many years of close work between Canada and NASA, especially with the International Space Station program. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney celebrated his flight, saying that Hansen's achievement shows Canada is a nation of explorers. Prime Minister Carney also noted he had spoken with U.S. President Donald Trump about the mission. Jeremy is also a mission specialist. These 4 astronauts are about to go on an amazing and unprecedented journey. They are ready to break records and inspire the world. They will face physical and mental dangers in the dark void of deep space. But one looming question remains. Are they truly ready for the unprecedented challenges that lie ahead, far from the safety of Earth? They will need immense courage and resilience to face the unknown, pushing the boundaries of human endurance. The quiet, dark void of space hides many tests, and the ultimate journey will test their limits. 3. A very big rocket. The Artemis 2 mission uses a very big rocket, the Space Launch System, or SLS. This is the largest and most powerful rocket ever built for humans. It stands 322 feet tall, like a 30-story building. Its enormous size shows the big challenge of leaving Earth. When the SLS lifts off, 2 solid rocket boosters and 4 main engines ignite.
They create a huge force, 8.8 million pounds of thrust. This power lifts the 5.75 million pound rocket, helping it break free from Earth's strong gravity. The SLS is the only rocket that can send the Orion spacecraft, its crew and supplies, directly to the moon in one launch. This capability is important for future moon projects. Many parts of the SLS come from the old Space Shuttle program. For example, the 4 powerful RS-25 engines are refurbished engines from past missions. Reusing parts saved money and jobs. However, this choice caused some concern. Will these recycled parts hold up under the brutal pressures and fiery conditions of a deep space launch? This is a big question for the mission's success. On top of the SLS is the Orion spacecraft. This is home to the 4 astronauts for their 10-day trip around the moon. Orion is cone-shaped and built to survive harsh deep space travel and fast re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. It has special life support systems for the crew. These systems are being fully tested with humans for the first time. Below Orion is the European Service Module, built by the European Space Agency. It gives the crew power, water, and oxygen. This module shows how many countries work together. The sheer scale of this hardware, from the giant rocket to the small capsule, must work perfectly to reach the moon. The use of recycled parts is a controversial decision. Everyone hopes they will withstand the incredible forces needed to send humans to deep space. 4. Waiting to fly. Getting a rocket ready for space is a very hard job. For the Artemis II mission, the path to launch day was full of problems and long waits. NASA first wanted to begin putting the rocket parts together in September 2024, but things went wrong. There were issues with the Orion spacecraft's life support system. Also, the heat shield showed unexpected damage after the Artemis I test flight. Because of these problems, the schedule was delayed. Rocket building finally started in November 2024, and all parts were together by October 2025. On January 18, 2026, the big rocket and its tower slowly moved out of the Vehicle Assembly Building to Launch Complex 39B. It was a proud moment, but more delays were coming. The mission planned to launch in early February, but it kept getting pushed back. First, there were hydrogen fuel leaks during a practice countdown. Then, problems happened with the upper stage propellant pressurization system. NASA worked to fix these issues. Then, on February 21, a helium flow problem appeared. This meant the rocket had to go back inside the building. This movement is called a rollback. It was a big setback, delaying the mission until April. The team felt disappointed, but they kept working. This program was already years behind schedule and costing a lot of money. When the April launch day finally arrived, there was still drama. Just over an hour before the planned 6:24 p.m. launch, a system for ending the flight showed a problem. It briefly made the mission a no-go. Crews quickly used old legacy Space Shuttle-era equipment and an experienced worker to fix it. This avoided another delay. Weather was also a worry. Meteorologists watched the wind and thick clouds. A rule said the rocket must stay far from clouds that could cause lightning. Luckily, the weather held, and the launch window opened. The crew was finally ready to fly after so many waits and fixes. 5. The danger of the heat. After the first uncrewed Artemis mission, called Artemis I, NASA made a worrying discovery. The Orion spacecraft had a special shield to protect it from extreme heat when it came back to Earth. This part is called the heat shield. During Artemis I's journey back home, the heat shield showed unexpected problems. It was cracking and fragmenting in over 100 places. This damage was seen after the spacecraft re-entered Earth's atmosphere. This was a very big problem. The heat shield is crucial for the safety of the crew. It is the only thing that keeps the astronauts safe from temperatures up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit during re-entry. This temperature is incredibly hot, enough to burn almost anything. An investigation found that the way Artemis I came back, using a skip re-entry path, caused the damage. Heat built up inside the shield's material, making it crack under pressure. This serious discovery made everyone at NASA deeply concerned about the next mission, Artemis II, which would carry 4 people. NASA had to make a very tough choice. They decided not to replace the heat shield on the Artemis II spacecraft, even with the problems found. This decision was controversial. Some engineers and other experts were worried about the risk. They believed it was too dangerous to use a heat shield that had shown damage before. However, NASA managers felt they could keep the crew safe in another way. They chose to change the path the spacecraft would take when it returned to Earth. This new path is called a modified trajectory. Instead of the old skip re-entry method, Orion would come back with a different angle of descent into the atmosphere. This new approach means the spacecraft will spend less time in the most extreme heat. NASA tested this modified plan carefully with computer models and on the ground. They believed this change would prevent further cracking of the shield and protect the astronauts. The new re-entry process will be extremely fast, reaching speeds of about 25,000 miles per hour. It will be the fastest re-entry ever attempted by humans. The heat shield must perform flawlessly at this speed.
This final test of the shield, expected on splashdown day, will be one of the most closely watched moments of the entire mission. Everyone will be waiting to see if this risky adjustment to the flight path truly saves the lives of the 4 brave astronauts. 6. 10 days in space. The 10-day trip into deep space was a unique journey for the 4 astronauts. On day 1, after the rocket launched, the Orion capsule began its flight. The crew made sure its large solar panels opened. They also tested how to manually move the spacecraft, a key skill for future missions. There was a brief problem with talking to Earth and a minor issue with the onboard toilet. Even in space, daily life had its challenges. Day 2 brought the most important engine burn. The astronauts fired the service module's powerful engine for 30 minutes. This set the spacecraft on a special trajectory. It would loop around the far side of the moon and then naturally return to Earth. This free return trajectory was a vital safety feature. It meant that even if the propulsion system later failed, gravity would bring them home safely without more engine power. From day 3 to day 5, the crew checked systems and practiced for the lunar flyby. They also did science experiments. One important test used tiny organ chips to study how space radiation and very low gravity affect human health. This research is key for longer trips to Mars. During these days, Orion moved closer to the moon, entering its gravitational pull. Day 6 was the mission's climax. The crew flew around the far side of the moon. For a short time, they lost all radio contact with Earth, truly alone in space. At this point, they flew farther from Earth than any humans had since the Apollo 13 mission in 1970, setting a new record of 252,000 miles. They saw the moon up close and captured amazing photos of Earthrise, our planet looking like a shining jewel over the lunar surface. Days 7 through 9 were the journey home. The spacecraft glided back towards Earth. The crew made small adjustments to stay on course. They spent this time preparing for their return, getting ready for the big splashdown. On day 10, the mission ended. The Orion capsule entered Earth's atmosphere very fast, at about 25,000 miles per hour. The heat shield protected them from extreme heat up to 5,000 degrees. After 9 intense minutes, parachutes opened to slow the capsule. It landed safely in the Pacific Ocean, where the U.S. Navy was waiting to recover the crew and spacecraft. This mission successfully brought humanity back to the moon's neighborhood after more than 5 decades. 7. Money and the world. Sending people to the moon is very expensive. A single trip for the Artemis 2 mission costs more than $4 billion. People often ask why this endeavor costs so much money. They also wonder who benefits from these large sums. The total cost for the Artemis program has been around $93 billion. This money pays for building rockets, spacecraft, and for all the people who work on the project. Some critics say this money should be spent on problems here on Earth, like poverty or health. Others argue that space travel brings new jobs, new technologies, and helps us learn many new things. The budget for Artemis is always a big discussion in politics. There have been times when future rockets face the risk of cancellation because of high costs. For example, in May 2025, President Donald Trump's administration suggested stopping the making of the SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft after the Artemis 3 mission. However, this idea did not pass. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman has warned that delays and overspending will lead to uncomfortable action. He wants future moon trips to be cheaper and happen more often. Space exploration is not just about science, it is also about countries competing with each other. This is called a geopolitical race. The United States wants to land astronauts on the moon by 2028. China also plans to send people to the moon by 2030. This competition is especially strong for the moon's south pole. Scientists believe there is a lot of water ice there. This ice could be used for drinking water, oxygen, and even rocket fuel.
The country that gets to these resources first could have a big advantage in future space travel. NASA also wanted to build a space station called the Lunar Gateway around the moon. It was meant to be a place where astronauts could stop before going to the moon's surface. However, this plan was canceled in March 2026, just before the Artemis 2 launch. This change affects many countries that plan to help build the gateway. So the future of the Artemis program is in a very precarious state, with huge costs, budget debates, and a race against other nations for lunar resources. The program's survival depends on many things going right. The success of Artemis 2 is very important for what happens next. Coming back to Earth. On day 10, the Artemis 2 crew prepared to come home. The Orion capsule moved very fast, at about 25,000 miles per hour. It hit Earth's atmosphere 75 miles above the Pacific Ocean. This was the most important hot test of human survival. The heat shield on the capsule had to work perfectly. Outside, temperatures reached 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The capsule became like a fiery ball as it slowed down. 9 minutes after entering the atmosphere, the crew was back in touch with Earth. They watched as 11 parachutes opened. These parachutes helped slow the capsule down to about 15 miles per hour. Then Orion splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean near San Diego. The U.S. Navy was waiting. A special ship recovered the capsule and the 4 astronauts. The world celebrated this huge success. Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen were safe. They had traveled farther from Earth than any humans in over 50 years. This mission was a big step for humanity. After coming back, the astronauts did more science. They went through tests to see how their bodies had changed. For example, they walked through an obstacle course to check their balance. They also did a simulated spacewalk to see how fast they could adjust to gravity. Scientists also studied organ chips that flew on Orion to understand how deep space affects human health. The Artemis 2 mission was a big win, but it also showed that space travel is hard and expensive. New companies like SpaceX are building very big rockets like Starship. These commercial rockets might make future trips to the moon cheaper. The plan is to build a permanent base on the moon. This lunar base would let people live there, study resources like water ice, and prepare for trips to Mars.
But the most dangerous and expensive parts of this plan are still ahead. The next mission, Artemis 3, will be different. It will first go to low Earth orbit for tests, not directly to the Moon for a landing as first planned. This shows how complex and always changing space plans can be. The Artemis 2 crew proved that humans can go back to the Moon's neighborhood.
What should humanity build first on the Moon? A science lab, a fuel station, or a human colony? This is a question for all of us. The journey to space is still full of big questions and exciting possibilities.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.